With a skinny frame, tattooed body, and rainbow hair, Suga Sean O'Malley looks more like a rapper than an MMA fighter at first glance. But don't let his looks fool you. O'Malley's megastar potential is through the roof. Inside the cage, O'Malley's a master tactician, like a chess grandmaster, who anticipates his opponent's next steps and counters with ruthless precision, speed, and deceptive power. Outside the cage, O'Malley's charisma, authenticity, and magnetic stage presence have turned him into an icon, whose popularity keeps rising and captivating those who value showmanship, backed by elite fighting repertoire. The question is, just how elite is Sean O'Malley? In today's video, we find the answer. Born in October 1994, Sean O'Malley had a normal childhood, unlike other top MMA fighters who were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, like wrestling bears or winning championships as a kid. O'Malley found mixed martial arts disgusting.
Downstairs when we were watching CDs of MMA fights, UFC fights, some badass fights back in the day. Sean's probably 12, sneaks down there, sees this. He's like, how can you guys watch this, man? This stuff's disgusting.
But while Sean hated fist fighting, going to school was something he despised way more, and he eventually chose the lesser of the two evils. After dropping out of high school in his sophomore year, O'Malley's life took a dramatic turn. Legend has it that Sean was on vacation with his family in Utah when a friend invited him to train at a fighting gym in his hometown of Helena, Montana. The Bantamweight star accepted the invitation, and the rest is history. Within a few months, O'Malley's coaches realized that he was special. In his teens, O'Malley competed in kickboxing, piling up an undefeated record before transitioning to MMA and starting his career at the amateur level, fighting 11 times with 9 victories and 2 losses per topology. In his first amateur fight against Stein Anderson in March 2013, O'Malley faced adversity early in the form of wrestling, but he still managed to produce a head kick to ground and pound KO in the second round. O'Malley's weak wrestling defense was exposed in his next few amateur fights, however. Against Sean O'Neill, O'Malley was out-grappled and finished with an armbar in the second round of their fight in October 2013. A month later, O'Malley suffered his second amateur loss at the hands of Miles Mazurkiewicz, this time by a rear naked choke. O'Malley knew he needed to tighten a few loose ends, and luckily, he found a mentor in Tim Welch, who helped Suga Sean evolve as a fighter and build a unique skill set, which consisted of high pressure and flashy kickboxing with solid defense wrestling. Within a few months of training with Welch, O'Malley was finishing people not just by punches, but by submissions as well. In 2015, O'Malley turned pro, racking up 3 first-round finishes before facing his toughest test up until that point in Mark Coates at Intense Championship Fighting 23. O'Malley landed the first strike of the fight, an inside leg kick followed by a knee as Coates grabbed a hold of him. Seconds later, the fight hit the mat. As soon as O'Malley got up, he started out striking his opponent. The trend of O'Malley getting taken down, making his way back up, and lighting Coates up like a Christmas tree on the feet continued for 3 rounds, and since Sean did more damage, he was declared the winner by a decision. Almost a year later, O'Malley returned to the cage to fight Tyson Lin at Intense Fighting Championship 26. Both men stayed at range and traded blows, although O'Malley had bigger moments. For instance, a minute into the fight, O'Malley clipped Lin with a big right hand. Seconds later, O'Malley picked Tyson up and slammed him onto the mat, adding insult to injury with a sharp body kick as Lin got back to his feet. O'Malley then rocked Lin with a stinging left hand. Moments later, he landed another left hand, putting Lin on rubber legs. The finish came in the second round. O'Malley first embarrassed his foe on the mat before rattling his brain cells with a brutal left hook that forced Lin to hold onto O'Malley's leg for dear life, but it was of no help. By 2017, Afro O'Malley had entered the competition, sharper than he'd ever been before, dancing around the cage like he was Michael Jackson reincarnate and knocking people out with swagger. At Legacy Fighting Championship 11, O'Malley gave MMA fans a glimpse of the Suga Show against David Nuzzo. Right from the word go, Sean was in his zone, outstriking Nuzzo like he was a random dude from the streets. The finish came in the second minute. Nuzzo tried to clear the cobwebs, but was put out of his misery with a spinning wheel kick.
Now Nuzzo's been dropped 3 times. That is...
In his next fight, O'Malley burst onto the scene by passing his Dana White's Contender Series audition with flying colors. Despite being the favorite, O'Malley didn't have things all his way as he spent a lot of time fighting off his back.
But he's He's on the ground now as Kashakian looks for some ground and pound.
Yeah, he's raining down some punches here.
He escapes it and throws another few rights.
Wow, great ground.
Even in the striking range, O'Malley was taking big shots, yet he showed glimpses of his technical prowess.
Go for the home run punch. There's another left from Kashakian.
For some of these punches, oh!
Big left knee to the head, but Kashakian moves in. O'Malley covered up with his back to the fence.
The fight was close, but it didn't matter because seconds before the end of the first round, O'Malley clipped Kashakian and then squished his face with a missile of a right hand to secure a stunning walk-off KO. Dana White was pumped.
Oh yeah!
O'Malley! O'Malley! Welcome to the Sugar Show! This is my show!
Having blown everyone out of the water with his flashy striking and one-punch knockout power, O'Malley earned his UFC contract, but his first couple of fights were subpar by his standards. In his debut in late 2017, O'Malley beat Terrion Ware 2 rounds to 1. In his second UFC fight, things could have been worse if it wasn't for Andre Sukumthas's brain fade. O'Malley was in control of their fight at UFC 222 until late in the second round he injured his foot after throwing a leg kick. O'Malley struggled to put weight on his injured foot, so Sukumthas should have chopped it down like a tree, right? Wrong. Sukumthas chose to take the fight to the mat, allowing O'Malley the break he needed and ultimately letting Suga Sean get away with a win. It wasn't until his third UFC fight that O'Malley well and truly introduced himself to violence-hungry fight fans.
I love everything about this sport, and I love you, Joe Rogan.
Well, I love you too, buddy.
After a 2-year break due to injury, O'Malley returned to action against Jose Alberto Quiñones at UFC 248. The fight started and Sean faked a glove touch to land a leg kick. Seconds later, he threw Quiñones off balance with a body kick. Quiñones tried to fire back after getting up, but O'Malley moved out of the way thanks to his quick feet. O'Malley continued to trouble Quiñones with feints, stance switching, and alternating kicks as the fight progressed.
It's too late. Right there. Spinning back kick to the body.
Frustrated with the lack of success, Quiñones tried to push O'Malley against the cage to land something, but Suga Sean shoved him to the mat. As soon as he got up, O'Malley landed a crushing head kick, followed by an uppercut and ground and pound to finish the job. 3 months later, O'Malley was back inside the octagon, this time against an experienced Eddie Wineland at UFC 250. Wineland started the fight in 5th gear, pressing O'Malley, who had to rely heavily on body kicks and more importantly feints, which are a crucial part of O'Malley's game. He drew big reactions from Wineland with constant head and hand feinting, forcing his opponent into thinking multiple things at a time, and the confusion ultimately led to Wineland's downfall. The first minute saw little action, but things escalated in the second one. O'Malley landed a nice right hand and a couple of body kicks. Wineland responded with a big right hand that momentarily blurred O'Malley's vision. Eddie again caught O'Malley with a big right hand. He chased O'Malley like a ghost for the next few seconds, forcing Suga Sean into letting his hands go and connecting with a good body shot and a right hand to shift the momentum. Moments later, O'Malley crushed Wineland's chin with a steamy right hand that had his eyes swirl like a slot machine hitting the jackpot as he hit the canvas. By then, O'Malley had become a star, amassing millions of followers on his Instagram and hundreds of thousands of views on his podcasts, The Bromalley Show with his brother and The Timbo Suga Show with his coach Tim Welch. But as his stardom soared to new heights with each passing day, O'Malley's personal life started to come under scrutiny, most notably his open relationship with his girlfriend, his bromance with controversial rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, and most importantly, his self-promoted comparisons with Conor McGregor, which fight fans scoffed at.
People said I try to be like Conor, it's like you can have two people that have similar personalities.
Needless to say, Suga Sean's critics had a ball when he was pummeled by Marlon Vera at UFC 252. O'Malley was having success in the boxing range against Vera, but the Ecuadorian's kicks did more damage. Due to accumulate damage, O'Malley suffered a drop foot and crashed to the canvas, inviting Vera to wrestle him, but Cheeto was no Sukumthas. He didn't stall and immediately started punishing the American with devastating elbows that ended O'Malley's undefeated streak. With 3 fights in 6 months, it was evident that O'Malley needed some rest and perhaps an improved skill set, since he had hyped himself to the point where failure wasn't an option. Much to the frustration of his critics, O'Malley bounced back in a big way, finishing Thomas Almeida at UFC 260. Before giving promotional newcomer Chris Mutino free CTE at UFC 264 4 months later. Mutino was a human punching bag who was too tough for his own good. Despite getting bruised and battered throughout, he kept coming forward, receiving one big blow after another.
O'Malley so good now, beautiful spinning kick lands.
Perhaps he was trying to gas O'Malley out? If you know, you know.
Switch. Sean checked that one, though.
This Chris Mutino is a tough man.
Thankfully, the fight was stopped 30 seconds before the end of round 3. After O'Malley landed 230 significant strikes, the most all-time for a 3-round fight in the UFC's Bantamweight division.
What did you do?
TKO Suga Sean O'Malley.
5 months later, O'Malley's critics were disappointed again when he faced Raulian Paiva at UFC 269. O'Malley dictated the dance throughout, dipping in and out with his trademark funky style and technically outstriking the Brazilian. O'Malley's jab and footwork were on point. For 4 minutes, O'Malley stuck and moved, outstriking his opponent using his length and size.
O'Malley very comfortable in both stances. Paiva attacks that lead leg again.
Before badly rattling the Brazilian with a crushing right hand half a minute before the end of round 1. From there on, O'Malley brutalized him with one big punch after another until referee Jason Herzog intervened.
Oh, my goodness. Jason Herzog's taking a very close look.
Suga Sean was now an impressive 15-1 as a professional, and simply a class apart, but his critics still had a point of argument left, that he was fighting tomato cans. O'Malley destroyed that narrative too in the summer of 2022, facing perennial contender Pedro Munoz at UFC 276. Unfortunately, the fight was ruled a no contest due to an accidental eye poke. Instead of running it back with Munoz, O'Malley went a step further, facing the scary Petr Yan in a title bantamweight eliminator at UFC 280. Not only was it a big fight as far as title contention was concerned, but it was O'Malley's chance to prove that he could hang in there with the best in the business, and he delivered. The fight was off to a flying start with both fighters exchanging hard kicks at range. A minute later, O'Malley gave Yan the taste of his deceptive power with a big right hand.
Outstretched fingers though, so they both got to be careful. There's a right hand gets through for O'Malley.
Yan was clearly surprised, but the exchanges continued until halfway through round 1, when the Russian went for his first takedown attempt, but O'Malley fought it off.
That raised guard of Yan. Now Yan shoots.
As soon as he fended off Yan's wrestling, O'Malley came forward with a straight left hand that sliced Yan's chin. Seconds later, Yan tagged O'Malley with a left and secured a takedown with a crowd-pleasing slam.
Drops down to a double again, gets his hands locked under the butt, puts him down.
O'Malley made his way back up half a minute later, and the two continued to exchange blows on the feet.
Giving up that takedown.
Money in the bank. Money in the bank with these leg kicks though for Petr Yan.
Yan started the second round aggressively, attacking O'Malley with a body and inside leg kick. O'Malley fired back with a 1-2 before landing a straight left that badly rocked Yan. Yan recovered quickly and returned the favor with a left hand of his own, rocking O'Malley and dragging him to the mat, where he dominated for a little over a minute. From there on, Yan was in O'Malley's face. The third round was very close as well, with both fighters having their moments.
Now, he's throwing so many up top.
O'Malley had the biggest one, landing a big knee to the face that cut Yan open. After 3 rounds of non-stop action, O'Malley defeated Yan by a split decision to earn the biggest win of his career, and subsequently a title shot against Aljamain Sterling at UFC 292. Like Yan, Funkmaster is regarded as a nightmare matchup for O'Malley because of his superhuman ability to backpack his opponents and choke them out. But Suga has a knack for proving his doubters wrong. Sean O'Malley's an electrifying force in MMA, whose unique fighting style, characterized by his flashy strikes, incredible footwork, devastating knockout power, and a very high IQ, sets him apart from the rest of his peers. Now add that to his charismatic personality and his ability to pull crowds in big numbers. O'Malley has all the tools needed to become the biggest star in MMA history, and his journey to greatness starts at UFC 292.